Hey everyone, thanks for watching. I want to talk to you about the Coleman dual fuel lantern. This particular lantern I've had for years and have just found numerous uses for it. It's got its pros and cons, and I want to kind of talk to you about that. But also, Coleman makes some really good products. I think their propane lanterns are really popular. That's a kind of an alternative to the dual fuel. I think what's important is to identify, is it something like a dual fuel lantern, or is it a propane lantern that would better suit your needs? I mean, then there's the lamp oil and stuff like that. But as far as Coleman lanterns, I think either the propane or the dual fuel would cover just about anything that you were trying to do. Like I said, I've had this one for years. One thing that I don't have with this lantern that I wish I did, and that's the case. On some of their models, not the dual fuel is pretty. It's a pretty pricey lantern. There's no cheaper versions of this lantern from Coleman that I have seen. But for the price range that is in, I mean, I felt like it should have just came with the case, but this particular one didn't. I think that would have been a great upgrade to basically to what I got. One particular reason is because being in storage. I mean, I'm not storing this thing inside my home, so it's either it's usually on a shed or something like that, and it gets covered with dust. If it was in that case, it would really help with that. Some of those cases, slide over the top, like the really nice ones. They slide over the top, so you really wouldn't get any type of dust or anything. So that's one negative thing is, I have to clean the dust off this thing every time I use it. Kind of, in the trapping season and stuff like that, I'm using it pretty regular. So any of these lanterns where you're burning the type of fuel, they get extremely hot. So do be careful of that. And also, whenever you quit using a lantern like this, let it cool before you store it. Now, when you get something like this, especially the dual fuels, I mean, first of all, the type of fuel that this thing burns, this should be outdoor use only. A lot of people, I think, would kind of have in mind that, hey, a lantern like this would be great for camping, and they are. They're fantastic for that. So having a case where you can travel with it and have a little bit of protection other than just having the glass exposed really would help. Now, the type of fuel that this burns, it's they'll say, hey, you can burn the Coleman camp fuel, which now I'm seeing there's knockoff brands. This one's by Crown. It's called a camp fuel. Either one calls it a mixture, but they do say that there's like a rust prohibitor that is added to these. So just by adding that, I mean, you can call it a mixture. You can have gasoline and then add a rust prohibitor, and then you can call it a mixture. But the smell doesn't really smell like straight gasoline or anything like that. But the alternative fuel you can use in this is you can burn gasoline in these stoves. Because of the fumes that are associated with the camp fuel and obviously gasoline, I would never burn these in an airtight enclosed space. Now, as far as propane, I wouldn't burn that in an airtight enclosed space either. But if you were going to use one of these inside the home, my preference is I would use the propane lantern in my home and would never use this particular lantern. The reason is because I also heat my home with propane. So propane burns very clean. You do need some type of air ventilation. Definitely depends on how long you burn it. But something like this, I mean, the fumes, I would not consider the fumes off of this by any means okay to burn in an enclosed area. So strictly outdoor use. Some people have commented that they've used the gasoline and they've gotten kind of smutty and first of all, I think they were kind of using it in enclosed areas, and they had a lot of fumes, and they said it was kind of smutty. One thing I'm going to show you, I'm going to light this lantern up, and I kind of run into that too. The only thing I use are the camp fuels, but you know, the camp fuel, it's already in a metal container. I will say that I've had some of these cans for several years, and they keep fine, so I haven't had any issues at all with that. Filling that tank up will last me like a whole trapping season, and so it's really efficient. I just, like a can of this fuel will last a long time. So if you went on a camping trip and you took a lantern in one of these jugs, you wouldn't have to worry about running out at all. I mean, this thing is very efficient. It does not burn fuel really fast. So another thing I notice is it stays primed really well. I think that's another part of it, just being so efficient. I've used similar lanterns years and years ago, where like every 30 minutes or 45 minutes you're back at the lantern pumping the thing up. This thing it's not like that. I've burned it for an hour and haven't noticed any drop in the pressure where it's starting to get dim. So and a lot of times I don't actually burn it on just straight high. I usually I'll run it about 3/4, and it's plenty for lighting the area that I need. But like I said, these dual fuel lanterns, they're a lot different than the propane. If you're looking for simplicity, look at propane. Propane, the lanterns and the stoves burn very consistent. You kind of light them, and they just, you don't have to worry about pressure drop or anything like that. I had a dual fuel stove, and I did not like it near as much as this lantern. The dual fuel stove, to me, I did experience pressure drop. Like you'd be trying to cook on it and whatever, and then before you know it, your flames burn down. So you're just kind of over there every 15 or 20 minutes pumping it up. I noticed it really didn't get that hot, and actually it didn't last that long. It quit working. So it was the performance was so poor that I really suspected that there may have been something wrong with it from day one. It just really didn't do what I expected out of a Coleman product, and versus the way this thing operates and then the way that stove operates, they just weren't on par with each other. This one really runs really great. The only thing is starting it up. A lot of times, I get flare up, and I blame that on maybe there's a little bit of liquid that gets sucked up and puts it over into the mantles, and it burns that, and it'll start kind of flaming up. But once that kind of burns out and it's just getting the fumes, the vapors that are going through it, this thing burns great and burns very consistent. But like I said, if you're looking for simplicity, I would tell you start with propane and decide if this is where you want to go. People that are possibly preppers and stuff like that, they could find that it would be easier to run across fuel for this lantern than it would necessarily for propane. But there are situations where you can store large amounts of propane, and you could use that, and then actually with the adapters that you can actually transfer propane into the little 1 pound cans. It's really something to think about there. You don't necessarily have this, but if you did, say like you had people in the, down here that were out of power for a month, they can't use this in their home. But if there was other things that they needed, they could eventually run across gasoline occasionally. Some gas stations would get supplies, and so if you had a gallon of gas, I wouldn't hesitate to say that you could burn this thing 4 hours a night for a month off a gallon of gas easily. It just doesn't burn a lot. So let me show you. Just kind of go ahead and light this thing up. This knob, you got to twist this counterclockwise, and there's a hole in the center, and if you don't hold your thumb over the hole, it's not priming anything. So your thumb is creating a seal on the knob. So starting off, you don't have to get it really primed up really good. Just like I said, I just get a little pressure on it, and then you turn it clockwise and it turns tight, and you got to seal it off. So you can turn this on, and it doesn't sound, it sounds like it's kind of bubbling. But that's, every time I light this thing, I always kind of run into the same thing. It wants to flare up, but I don't buy the lighters, you know, the long lighters. I actually just take a paper towel, and half of a paper towel actually, and just roll it up, and I just light the end of it and use that as my lighter. But really simple. Another thing, because I do this and I can get it close to that mantle, I don't flip this thing on high or anything like that, because you'll get a flash out. You'll get, you know, flames that'll come out of this thing. So you just got to be careful when you're lighting it. I'm real particular. I don't turn it on until I get it. There we go. So it's already lit. It is flaming up. Just kind of give you an idea. Let me show you. And really what that's got to do with is that has to do with that it's picking up some liquid, and it's putting liquid. It's not really getting the fumes, you know, the vapor. So once it gets the vapors, you'll start seeing the mantle will start glowing bright white. So it's, when it's just kind of a flame coming on, it's just yellow, starts burning bright white, and there we go. So flames are gone now, and now it's burning like you should. So, and at this point now, and I've got it wide open, but at this point now, I go ahead and I pump it up, and you can really hear that lantern starts roaring pretty good. And it'll burn like this for hours. I mean, it's really simple. Like I said, that's on high, and I never burn it on high. But overall, it's really a great product. Like I said, now there's benefits that, I don't know, I mean, there's benefits to propane and there's benefits to this. My recommendation is really, you know, have one of each. But it's a good product. It works great. I just wish I had a case for it. So, but like I said, just there's applications that I have for it, and it works good for that. Anyway, I hope if you ever consider buying something like this, that this video kind of give you an idea of, you know, is it something that you'd really want to have. I think the quality's there. I think this is something that would burn for a long time. When it comes down to it, you know, is this more reliable than a propane lantern? Well, if you have a good supply of the propane tanks, I would probably say maybe the propane is more of a reliable source. But the great thing about this is if you didn't have, you know, tanks or something like that, this, I mean, you can go to a gas station with a, you know, jug and get 2 gallons of gas, and this thing will burn for days on just a gallon. So really something to consider. Like I said, I can't tell you whether or not this lantern is going to fit your application, but if you want something that's just simple, I'd probably look at propane. If you want something that's really versatile, and I think in the cases of self-reliance, prepping, you know, some type of sustainability or whatever, maybe there's something there for you on this. But I like it. I like using it in my shed. I use it a lot for skinning. It's great. It's great for that. Like I said, you know, it's a great product, and you know, if you do consider buying one, I hope you like it as much as I like mine.